Hello everyone and welcome to Top Tips for Archaeology Graduates. Today I'm really happy to be joined by Dave Williams, who is a field archaeologist, and he's going to tell us all about his role and how he got into working in field archaeology. So Dave, maybe you could tell us a little bit about what your role is, what your position is, and what are the kind of things that you do in your day-to-day job?
Yeah, so I'm a senior project manager with Archaeological Services, WYAS, and my day-to-day job is basically helping run all the field work, and it can be from sort of tendering for jobs, winning jobs, getting the jobs set up, project managing the team, making sure people are in the right place, all the logistics of it, sort of all the office-based work from it, and doing all the things like helping run the company, like the finance, the personnel, the HR, things like that, as well as writing reports, editing reports, producing figures. It can be quite varied, really, what I do.
Yeah, that sounds like a really varied role. How did you get to be a senior project manager? What were the sort of steps that took you to that position?
Well, I started off after graduating as a site assistant or an archaeologist, a digger, basically. And I did that from 2005 all the way through to about, was it 2018, something like that, 2017, 2018, something like that. And I just worked my way up, basically. So starting right at the bottom and then sort of progressing all the way up to nearly the top of the organisation that I'm in now.
So how did you progress? I think that's one of the things that one of the questions that students often ask is sort of, okay, so I get the site assistant position. What are the kind of things that I should be thinking about to kind of, if I do want to be promoted to supervisor and then project officer and project manager?
I think the thing I found really useful was just that willingness to give anything a go, and that kind of realization that any site you walk onto, there's always something you can learn from it. It could just be the 10th, 20th, 30th kind of Iron Age Romano-British site that you've dug and you think you've seen it all before, but it's looking for that thing that you can take away from it. Maybe it's not learning about the archaeology, maybe it's learning about dealing with machine drivers or a tricky client or other people, or members of the public who aren't happy about what we're doing or are happy about what we're doing. So I think it's that willingness to learn, constant learning really is, and sort of that kind of progression as you go on, sort of if you can take something from every site that you ever go onto or do, or any project that you do, then that's really kind of the best thing I think, is just showing that willingness to learn and then apply that onto the next site as well.
What are sort of the favourite parts of your job then? What are the kinds of things that you really enjoy doing?
I think when I was digging, I absolutely loved that kind of moment of discovery. When you're digging out, another ditch section, they are all different. They can all be the same as well sometimes. But finding a bit of pot, whether it's a Roman bit of pot, knowing that it's the last person to have touched that was nearly 2,000 years ago, or finding a Bronze Age cremation urn, which could be 3,000 years old, 4,000 years old, something like that. Knowing the last people to see that are long gone. It's that real kind of sort of really kind of, I guess, kind of was it just sort of really getting face to face with the past, with the human past, which is why we do archaeology, and knowing that people were doing things in the past a long time ago, so that's certainly that element is the bit I quite liked when I was digging, that real kind of moment of discovery. And then as I sort of progressed up to sort of supervisor, project officer, and then a project manager, it's starting to kind of sort of almost zoom out a little bit and get that kind of, how do I put all those ditch sections together to tell a story? How do I then tell the story about that site, and then how do I tell that story about lots of sites, put them all together and just help write the history, I guess, the past, kind of the history that we can write through doing archaeology, and that's the real kind of excitement of my job now. It's much more office based, but I get to have a much more sort of wider view of things and try and put things together, which is which is again that sort of moment of discovery, I guess, but in a different way.
Yeah, it's just it's at a different scale then.
Yeah.
So what are some of the other side of that question is, I guess, what's more challenging about the roles that you've had?
Yeah, I think certainly now is the office-based work. I mean, and with COVID, working at home is slightly odd. I think I sort of started archaeology because I liked the idea of being outside as well as being inside, and now it's probably much more sort of office-based work. So that's, you know, you sit looking out the window thinking, oh, it'd be quite nice to be outside. So there's that sort of that's challenging of it. I think commercial archaeology is quite challenging in itself. The bit that we have to do where we have to kind of competitively tender for work can be quite tricky to do, you know, and trying not to kind of cut corners or cut costs, you know, so much that, you know, you put people under pressure, and just trying to keep everybody going, I guess, you know, especially, you know, right about now, it is very difficult, you know, sort of out on site, you know, it's such a kind of a personal thing that we do. You know, you sit and you talk to people about what you're doing, or you kind of engage with other people on site, whether it's other excavators or your supervisory project manager or whoever else. But now it's, you know, you have to have that distance. That distance exists. It has to exist, and to keep everybody safe. But it's just loses that little bit of camaraderie, I guess, that you might get in a cabin, which you just don't really do right now, you know. So it's that's certainly probably, I think, probably the trickiest things at the minute.
Yeah. So team working then is something which is really important to field archaeology, and it sounds like it's really important to you as well, that sense of the team that comes with being out on site.
Yeah, I think it is. I think sort of that, although we're sort of studying people in the past, it's also about how you deal with people in the present and in the now, really. You know, so you'll be on site, probably you might be with just one other person, or you could be on a big site with 20, 30 other people. You know, and those kind of interpersonal skills are really quite important, you know, that sort of ability to get on with people. And soon as you progress up, you know, you then have to start dealing with more and more people, whether it's dealing with a supervisor, project officer, or a project manager, or even a county archaeologist, or a client, or somebody from Historic England, or even the council. You know, it's you know, there's lots of people to talk to and deal with, really.
Yeah. And sort of talking of skills then, in what ways do you think your archaeology degree helped you and prepared you for this role? I guess I mean both in terms of knowledge from your degree, but also those soft skills, those transferable skills.
Yeah, I think certainly the soft skills were probably the sort of the biggest thing. Kind of the like I said, the ability to deal with people, you know, is a great one, but also the kind of the being kind of analytical and the observational skills that archaeology kind of, you know, sort of generates, really. You know, the ability to take lots of different sources and, you know, tell a story basically, or put a report together, or take all the different sources and come out with one nice answer, or work towards one possible answer is the really good thing. I mean, I think that because we never quite know where we're going with commercial archaeology, you know, we don't know what site might be next. You know, we can deal with anything from kind of Mesolithic flint scatters up on the Pennines to a Cold War missile site on the East Coast, you know, and then potentially sort of everything in between. So the kind of the sort of the general historical overview sort of stuff that we did was quite useful. I found that quite useful at sort of at university. You know, and then I do occasionally have to run back to a copy of it's probably on my shelf somewhere, sort of whatever the textbooks we've got, just to refresh my memory when we do find something that we might not have dealt with for quite a long time. But I think I'm quite fortunate that I did quite a lot of Romano-British stuff at university, and that's quite a lot of what we deal with as a company now. So it's yeah, kind of nicely reinforced.
Yeah. So that means your dissertation must have been really useful. I guess that was a good preparation for report writing. What did you do your dissertation on, your undergraduate dissertation?
Yeah, having just said I absolutely loved the Romano-British stuff, I actually did my dissertation on Second World War archaeology, and mainly focusing on the stuff around sort of York, or the stuff that might have existed around York, or did exist around York rather, and mainly about the sort of the destruction rates of it. You know, it's quite a lot which doesn't survive because it was just, you know, it's just not really, it wasn't viewed as being, you know, kind of particularly important or significant, even, you know, what, 15 years ago, 16 years ago. You know, but now it is more significant and important. But it's certainly, again, it's that kind of taking lots of sources, that sort of research element, which once we are doing reporting, you know, is trying to, you know, you can talk about your site in a lot of detail, but it's trying to work out how it sits in relation to other sites and other, you know, things, that similar sites that have been excavated across the county or the region or even the UK.
Great, thank you. That sounds like a great dissertation, and really useful one as well.
I'm not sure it was very good, but
oh, it sounds fascinating. So I just want to end this interview by asking, what advice would you give to current students or graduates who wanted to follow in your footsteps?
There are opportunities out there. There absolutely are opportunities out there. Right now is, in this bizarre world that we live in, it is very busy. There are lots of, you know, sites going on, lots of big excavations going on. You know, I think that the key things are having things like a driver's license. You know, not every site will be on your doorstep, and if they are, you'll be very lucky. So a driver's license is key. Something like a CSCS card, which is like a basic health and safety thing. Again, that's, you know, just going to be getting you kind of ready, basically, just to go on site almost. And just the willingness to learn, just the willingness to learn that every site is different, and every site will throw up something new. And then, you know, and just the willingness to have a go at anything, really. I mean, I did a lot of excavation, but I did some geophysical survey, and I hadn't really done much of that at all, and I was just sort of dropped in at the deep end with a magnetometer and told, right, go walk a survey grid. You know, it's just had a good go at it, you know, and sort of could do it a little bit. So yeah, that's I think, and lots of perseverance. There are, you know, just carrying on doing it. You know, it is, you know, it is a good job. It's not going to be the world's best paid job, you know. I think it's I think every archaeologist perhaps knows that, but it can be a really rewarding job. Every day can be different, and you get to be outside for some of it as well, even, you know, even in the nice weather and the bad weather. You know, I quite like, I mean, last week when we had lots of snow, you know, it's quite nice sometimes just to be all wrapped up out in the snow and doing some paperwork and some survey work. So it's I think being prepared for that is always a good thing as well.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate hearing from you about I guess the sense that just having a go and being ready to learn is one of the sort of characteristics that has really helped you out in your career. Thank you so much for joining us today.